How are you bucking the trend here?
Well, I think the Rent the Runway is about delivering enormous financial value to the customer. So if you rent a dress for a special occasion from us, you're paying 90% off the retail price. And if you have a subscription, each item is like 18, 20 bucks. So it's even cheaper than shopping at an off-price channel. It's cheaper than fast fashion. And of course, it's the real thing. So we think that in an environment where we've been cooped up for the last 2 years, you're certainly seeing in kind of the earnings calls of Airbnb and Bookings.com and Live Nation that people are going out and they want ways to wear something new. They just want to do it affordably. So Rent the Runway is an experience that goes along with events and travel and going out to restaurants, going out to concerts. And that's why we've been able to perform.
There's no question, though, that inflation is going to hit folks even harder. People are paying more for gas, more for groceries. What's your forecast on how customer spending habits are going to change? How much are they going to be willing to spend on apparel versus some of these essential items? And how do they think about apparel? Is it more of an essential because we've been cooped up for so long?
I think that first of all, Rent the Runway has a customer base that's slightly different. It's more of a higher income customer base. So I think, listen, everyone is impacted by inflation and by an upcoming recession, and people are going to think about smarter ways to spend in the category. So I think the only data we really have is what happened in 2008. It was fascinating. In 2008, Americans continued to buy 65 articles of apparel per year, which was the exact same amount they bought in 2005, 6, and 7. What they did is they flipped into lower price per unit retailers. So they flipped into off-price, they flipped into value. And I really believe that re-commerce in general can now be part of that cost consideration set. So even in recessionary times, people still want variety in their wardrobes. Now, how does the fact that we all went through COVID factor into this? I think that this recession might feel different, might look different than the last one. I think that we may end up spending more on experiences in this recessionary period than we did in the last one because we didn't travel over the last 2 years. We didn't really go out to eat. We didn't see friends. And Rent the Runway is spend that tracks with experiences. So I think that you might travel, you have inflation, maybe you don't travel to Italy and you travel to Florida instead and you kind of book a cheaper hotel. You're still going to get out there and go out. And I think that as long as we can market value, we will be able to be more part of her consideration set.
Now, we're seeing a lot of tech companies have to make hard decisions, layoffs, downsizing. You had to make some tough decisions during the pandemic, and you've been very open about that. Do you have any reflections on that now and potentially input for these founders who are having to make those tough decisions now?
We cut over 50% of our expenses in a 3-week period in March 2020. And it was a dramatic situation. In that one weekend in March 2020, over 50% of our subscribers paused or canceled. And so we had to act extremely quickly. We had to change the way we acquired inventory from buying inventory outright to actually revenue sharing and receiving our inventory on consignment. So I would say to other CEOs that there's not a moment to lose, that cash is king. You have to think about all of your investments and be more conservative. And kind of the great thing about this environment is it's not happening overnight. There will never be another experience where, like a pandemic, we're all locked inside, from March 8th to March 9th, we were living different lives. So we're constantly looking at the data internally, and we feel that we're able to react. And thus far, we feel positively. We gave great guidance for Q2, but reaffirmed our guidance for the year. We think that every business has to be smart right now because no business is recession or inflation proof.
So last quick question. If you beat estimates and you raised your guidance, does that mean the pandemic era of sweatpants is over?
Yes, a black tie to 2022 like sweatpants is to 2020. I mean, people are dressing up in a way that I've never seen before. They are bolder, brighter than they've ever been before. And I think that this is just the example, like they're dating again. They're going to parties again. Like people aren't going to stop doing that now. And so I do believe that this recession might be different for service-based companies.